They laughed every time we opened it. My old laptop, scratched, slow, its keys worn smooth from years of use. My coworkers snickered, calling it Grandma's typewriter and a fossil from the 90s. They thought my outdated computer was a joke. What they didn't realize was that behind that screen, I was building something bigger than any of their shiny devices could hold. And the day I sold my startup for $2 million, the laughter stopped. Tell me, have you ever been underestimated for something small? Share below. Now let's begin today's story. The jokes started harmlessly enough. The first time I brought that laptop into the office, someone whistled. "Wow," one coworker said. "Does it still run on floppy disks?" Laughter rippled through the room. At first I smiled. I'd had the laptop for years. It wasn't fast, it wasn't sleek, but it worked. Every keystroke was familiar, every shortcut second nature. To me, it wasn't just a machine, it was a companion that had carried me through late-night side projects and endless ideas. But to them, it was something to mock. "Don't spill coffee on it," another quipped. "It might not survive." "Careful, if it dies, you'll have to visit a museum for parts," someone else added. I laughed along at first, but over time the jokes grew sharper. Meetings became a stage for their sarcasm. One coworker even pretended to cover his ears whenever I powered it on, joking about the fan noise. What they didn't know was that every evening after work, that same dinosaur of a laptop came home with me. I'd set it on my kitchen table, pour a cup of coffee, and get to work on something no one else knew about. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't even fully formed, but it was mine. A small idea for a platform that connected people in ways the company I worked for had overlooked. A gap in the market that no one else seemed to see. Every night the old laptop hummed as I coded, drafted, tested, and rebuilt. Its screen may have flickered, its keys may have stuck sometimes, but it never quit on me, and I refused to quit on my idea. Meanwhile, at work, the laughter only grew. "Still lugging that antique around?" they'd ask as they tapped away on their brand new MacBooks. "You know, one day it'll just explode." I kept quiet, because sometimes silence is the best shield. Let them laugh. I knew what they didn't, that behind the scratches and the outdated hardware was a project that could change everything, and I carried that secret like a spark, waiting for the right moment to ignite. At night, when the office lights dimmed and the world grew quiet, my old laptop came alive. It wasn't easy. Some nights the screen froze mid-sentence and I'd have to restart everything. Other times, the battery overheated and I'd set a fan beside it just to keep it going. Anyone else might have given up, traded it in for something newer, flashier. But I didn't have the money for upgrades and, truth be told, I didn't want them. That laptop carried my work like a trusted partner. It may have looked tired, but it still had fight left in it. And so did I. The project began as a simple idea scribbled in a notebook. I'd noticed something missing in the market, an easier way for small businesses to connect with local clients without paying outrageous fees to middlemen. Everyone around me seemed obsessed with flashy apps and high-end solutions, but I saw something different. Simplicity. Every evening I coded line by line, building a framework that was clean, light, and practical. There were nights I stared at the screen until my vision blurred, nights I fell asleep at the table, only to wake up with keyboard imprints on my cheek. No one knew. My coworker saw only the tired eyes, the worn laptop, and assumed I was clinging to the past. They had no idea the future was unfolding right under their noses. The hardest part wasn't the coding, it was the doubt. Some evenings I'd sit with my head in my hands wondering if I was wasting my time. Who was I to think I could build something of value with nothing but an old machine and a stubborn dream? But then I'd remember all the times they laughed, every smirk, every joke, every dismissive glance. And instead of breaking me, it fueled me. I wanted to prove, not to them, but to myself, that I was more than their laughter.
Slowly, the project began to take shape. What started as a rough sketch turned into a functioning prototype. I showed it quietly to a few small business owners I knew. Their response was immediate. "Where has this been? We could use this tomorrow." That was all I needed. I doubled down, refining the design, ironing out bugs, and preparing for something bigger. Each day I carried that same old laptop to work, enduring the chuckles. Each night I returned home and built the foundation of something they could never see coming. The laptop wheezed. The screen flickered. But it carried my dream faithfully, step by step. And as my idea grew stronger, so did I. The first real breakthrough came almost by accident. I had shown my prototype to a local cafe owner, a woman who struggled to get her business noticed online. She tried my platform for a week. By the end of it, she called me nearly breathless. "3 new customers found me through your site. Do you realize what you've built here?" Her words stuck with me. For the first time, my little idea wasn't just theory. It was helping someone. I added her testimonial to the site, then quietly approached a few more small businesses. A florist, a barber, a mechanic. Each one gave the same reaction. This was simple, affordable, and exactly what they needed. Word began to spread, not loudly, but steadily, like ripples in a pond. And yet, at the office, nothing changed. My coworkers still smirked when I booted up my grandma's laptop. One morning, as I struggled with a presentation file that took an extra minute to load, a colleague leaned over and whispered loudly enough for others to hear, "Careful, don't overwork the fossil, it might catch fire." Laughter broke out across the table. I smiled faintly, but inside, something different stirred. Because I knew what they didn't. While they mocked, real businesses were signing up for my platform. Real revenue was starting to trickle in. The old laptop wasn't dying, it was delivering. The more they mocked, the less it bothered me. Their jokes were loud, but my progress was louder, at least in my heart. At night, I added features users requested, messaging tools, scheduling options, small things that made a big difference. And with every update, my confidence grew. Soon, my side project began to demand more time than my day job. I'd sneak into conference rooms on my lunch break to answer emails from clients. I stayed up later, fueled not by coffee, but by momentum. One day, I got an email from a local business association. They had heard about my platform from members who were using it. They wanted me to present at their monthly meeting. I sat at my desk that afternoon, staring at the screen, my heart pounding. I glanced around the office, at the coworkers chuckling over memes on their shiny new laptops. None of them had a clue. The invitation wasn't just validation, it was the beginning of something bigger. I accepted, of course. And that night, as my old laptop hummed under my fingertips, I realized the balance had shifted. They still saw me as the person with outdated tools, but behind the curtain, I was becoming something else entirely. A founder, a builder, someone on the edge of success. The laughter continued at work, but in my world, beyond those walls, people weren't laughing. They were signing up. The night of the business association meeting, I walked in carrying nothing but my old laptop and a bundle of nerves. The room was filled with small business owners, each one curious, each one skeptical. I set up, clicked a few keys, and prayed the laptop wouldn't freeze. It didn't. The demo worked perfectly. I showed them how in minutes they could list their services, connect directly with customers, and cut out the expensive middlemen. By the time I finished, hands shot up, not with questions, but with requests. How do I sign up? Can I get my business on here tonight? That evening, 20 new businesses joined. By the end of the week, it was 50. And by the end of the month, I had more paying customers than I ever imagined. The revenue wasn't life-changing yet, but the momentum was. I reinvested every cent, adding servers, fixing bugs, and upgrading just enough to keep things running. Still, I clung to my old laptop. It wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol. The very thing they mocked had carried me here. Then came the email that changed everything. An investor had heard about the platform through one of the association members. He wanted to meet. I nearly dropped my coffee. Me? A nobody with an outdated laptop and a side project? But I went. We met in a modest office downtown. I pulled out my laptop, its hinges squeaking as it opened, and showed him everything. He didn't laugh. He leaned in closer. By the end of the meeting, he said 6 words that still echo in my head. "You're sitting on something big here." Negotiations followed. More investors joined the conversation. Within months, the platform wasn't just a side project, it was a company, my company. Meanwhile, back at the office, nothing had changed for my coworkers. They still made their jokes. One even taped a sticker of a dinosaur on the back of my chair. I didn't bother peeling it off. I was too busy answering emails from investors, preparing for growth, and building a future none of them could see. Then, one Friday afternoon, it happened. News broke in the local business paper. My startup had closed, a deal worth $2 million. The article had my name, my photo, and even a shot of the laptop that had built it all. When I walked into the office that Monday, the room was silent. No jokes, no smirks, just stares. Someone muttered, "2 million? With that laptop?" I smiled. Yes, with this laptop. For the first time, their laughter was gone, replaced by something else. Respect, envy, maybe even regret. And as I sat down at my desk, the dinosaur sticker still clinging to my chair, I realized the sweetest victory wasn't the money. It was the silence that followed. In the weeks after the article came out, my life shifted in ways I never imagined. Investors called, emails poured in from small businesses across the country asking if they could join the platform. Suddenly, I was no longer the person with the old laptop. I was a founder, a CEO, someone people sought out for advice and opportunities. But even with the $2 million deal signed, I kept that old laptop on my desk. The hinges squeaked louder, the screen flickered more often, but I refused to replace it. Not because I needed it, but because it reminded me of the truth. Success doesn't come from what people see. It comes from what you build when no one is watching. Sometimes I caught my former coworkers sneaking glances at me, their shiny new computers glowing on their desks. A few even tried to strike up conversations, awkwardly friendly, where they had once been dismissive. I didn't hold grudges, but I also didn't forget. Their laughter had fueled me in the dark nights when doubt whispered the loudest. At home, I placed the first check from the acquisition deal in a frame. Not to flaunt it, but to remind myself and my children that value is never about appearances. That old laptop with its cracked keys and whirring fan carried more worth than any brand new gadget in the office. Looking back, I realized that the real reward wasn't the money. It was the lesson. The lesson that being underestimated can be a gift. That silence and patience are sometimes more powerful than arguments or defenses. That the things people laugh at can become the very things that outlast their ridicule. I remembered every chuckle, every whispered joke, every sticker and smirk. And then I remembered the investor leaning across the table saying, "You're sitting on something big." That moment mattered more than all the laughter combined. The truth is, my coworkers gave me more than mockery. They gave me motivation. And in the end, the old laptop they ridiculed became the very key to my independence, my security, and my legacy. As I powered it down one last time, the fan whirring like a sigh of relief, I whispered, "We did it." Because sometimes, the things people dismiss are the ones that change your life forever. So here's what I've learned. Success doesn't shine on the surface. It grows quietly, line by line, idea by idea, until one day it can't be ignored. My coworkers mocked my old laptop, thinking it was a symbol of weakness. But that worn machine carried every piece of code, every late-night idea, and every ounce of patience that built a company worth $2 million. It wasn't the laptop that mattered. It was the persistence behind it. People will laugh at what they don't understand. Let them.
because sometimes the very thing they mock is the foundation of your future. Tell me, have you ever turned someone's laughter into your motivation? Share your story in the comments. And stay tuned. More stories of quiet victories are coming your way.